Maya from Staten Island, New York has an email here. Thoughts about Punk and Cody's WrestleMania direction from a female fan. She says, I'm a relatively new listener of the podcast, and as a female wrestling fan, your community has provided me with a comfortable and safe environment to discuss wrestling. I very much appreciate that. Secondly, I have thoughts about Punk's path and Cody's path to their respective WrestleMania main events, and how WWE can make sense of it. I agree with your assessment that CM Punk should win the Royal Rumble. Cody winning 2 years in a row may produce a negative reaction. So how does Cody get his match against Roman at WrestleMania 40? Now, let me stop there. I should say that, again, Punk is just one possibility that I floated. I just would prefer not to see Cody repeat. Let him find a different path to get to Roman Reigns. If that means CM Punk, then let CM Punk win. But it doesn't have to be CM Punk. But here are Maya's ideas. She says Roman should have a triple threat match against Orton and Styles at the Royal Rumble. Roman has not had a multi-man championship match since WrestleMania 37, so this would allow for a nice change of pace. They can play with the whole angle of Roman not having to be pinned to lose his titles. However, we all know how the match will end. Roman pins Styles, and Orton has a legitimate clause to get a rematch because he was not pinned. Second, Punk wins the Rumble and chooses to face Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 40. Cody has a Shawn Michaels-esque 2010 Royal Rumble performance. Similar to how Batista eliminated Shawn, you could have somebody like Drew or Gunther, preferably Drew, eliminate Cody. Garnering sympathy for Cody is key. I would agree with that, actually. I think the exact opposite of having Cody win 2 years in a row is to have a spot somewhere in that Rumble match like that would allow you to build sympathy for Cody. Because if Cody doesn't win the Royal Rumble, the obvious question then becomes, well, how is he going to get to Roman Reigns? Because Roman Reigns is on SmackDown and Cody is on Raw. And it looks like Cody is not going to get to finish his story. And so building sympathy, I think, becomes important to make sure that you keep people, interested enough in wanting to see Cody go all the way without either getting bored of him or turning on him. So I think the sympathy factor is key. Number 3, Orton gets a one-on-one title match with Roman at Elimination Chamber. Solo costs Orton the match, helping Roman retain, and the interference leads to Solo Sikoa and Randy Orton having a one-on-one match at WrestleMania 40. I do think that's the most obvious match for Orton if they don't bring Nick Aldis into the ring to have a match with him, which I think is also a possibility. Number 4, here is my experimental idea for Cody. You're either going to really like it or you're going to really hate it. WWE has a cross-promotional Elimination Chamber match with wrestlers who have previously lost to Roman Reigns because of interference from the Bloodline. They are now attempting to win this chamber with the winner to face Roman in the main event of WrestleMania 40 Night 2. The participants are Cody, LA Knight, Logan Paul, Sami Zayn, Drew McIntyre, and Jey Uso. Knight and Paul can spark the beginning of their feud for the US title during this match. Drew can eliminate both Sami and Jey, and Cody could triumph over Drew and avenge his elimination from the Royal Rumble. Finally, Cody then gets his rematch against Roman Reigns. I don't hate that idea. I actually think that's a very creative idea. They did something a little bit different this year. We had our first Elimination Chamber match for the United States Championship. So if they wanted to have the first cross-promotional Elimination Chamber with the winner facing Roman at WrestleMania, that takes care of the issue of, well, if Cody doesn't win the Rumble, how do you get him into a chamber match if it usually is not cross-promotional, right? To get him to win so that he can face Roman Reigns. This would solve that problem. And I'm looking at the lineup that Maya has listed here. And I like the idea, because Logan Paul also, he lost to Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel last year. And by having LA Knight in there, you could have, however they do it, you can have that moment where the two of them end up kind of creating an issue that then brings them to WrestleMania for the US title. So that kind of, they cancel each other out. That takes them out of the picture. The only risk I see with an idea like this, if you're going to have LA Knight in there and Sami Zayn and the people like them, again, who do they cheer for? But here's the thing. I say that, but you can't always be afraid of how the crowd is going to react. You can't be terrified of your audience. I do think it's a concern if you do that in the Royal Rumble and it comes down to Cody and Punk. I think it has to be a concern. But I also don't think they should be afraid of their own shadow here. So is there a risk involved? Yes. Are there people who might prefer to see Sami Zayn win or LA Knight win or Jey Uso win? Sure. But I think Cody is at a point where he's over enough that I think it would be fine. So you have Logan Paul and LA Knight cancel each other out. You can even have Jimmy Uso get involved somehow, right? We've seen people interfere in Elimination Chamber matches, right? We've seen Logan Paul interfere, I think, in this year's Elimination Chamber match to cost Seth Rollins, which led to their WrestleMania match. So you can have Jimmy get involved to cost Jay, or, like you said, you can have Drew just eliminate Jay and Sammy. And then Cody beats Drew, overcomes that, gets the shot with Roman. I like it. I think it could work. And that would be a big chamber match. I mean, you look at the names that would be in there. There's a lot of star power in that match. I'm trying to think of what else the Elimination Chamber match would look like. And I think this idea is a sound one. So you don't have to be worried about me hating your idea. I think it's actually a very good idea. And number 5, she has some final notes here. Should WWE do Becky against Rhea on this show? Rhea will be... she's talking about the Elimination Chamber. Rhea will be in her home country in a stadium, and since neither woman will likely main event either night of WrestleMania, do you do the first match here, the rematch at Mania, and the final match at Bash in Berlin? So let's stop there. I think doing Becky and Rhea first in Perth makes sense. Because you're right, they have no chance of headlining WrestleMania. I think it's okay to do the first match on a big show like this and then come back and do the rematch at Mania 40 in Philly. So I think I would do that. And part of the reason I would do that, I don't know who else Rhea Ripley would wrestle on that show. That's going to be a huge show for Rhea Ripley. Big stadium show in Australia. Actually, she and Dom are going down to Perth this week, I think, to do some promotion for the show. They already have well over 30,000 tickets sold for the event. You want a big match for her on that show. You don't just want to give her a match, right? You could do Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax at the Royal Rumble. You're not going to do Rhea Ripley against Nia Jax or Raquel Rodriguez or Candice LeRae or Chelsea Green or Zoe Stark, right? You see where I'm going here? Like, there's no other great option but Rhea and Becky in Perth at the Elimination Chamber, with Rhea winning, and then we get a rematch between them at WrestleMania, I think would make sense. I don't think you even need to worry about a third match. You mentioned Bash in Berlin, I'm not sure why. If you wanted to come back and do a third match, do it at SummerSlam. She says, also, Gunther drops the Intercontinental title to Chad Gable at WrestleMania 40, with Dominic eventually beating Gable for the belt later in the year. Gunther dethrones Punk, assuming Punk beats Rollins, at Bash in Berlin and then faces Zayn at WrestleMania 41. What are your thoughts? I do want to see Gunther lose that title. Gable is still somebody, they have to come back around to him and his story. As far as him dethroning Punk, I don't think I would have Punk win. If you do Punk and Rollins at WrestleMania, I think Rollins wins. And you could have Gunther beat Rollins at Bash in Berlin to win the belt. And then come back and do Gunther and Zayn for the title at WrestleMania 41 in 2025. That I could see.